Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. How you doing, Tom?
Doing well, Kevin. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Good to see you. I was
Likewise.
I wanted to talk today a little bit about. I think we would both agree that I've been a little bit tough on Amazon lately. I've been a little critical, enough so that I've had people come up to me like when I was at WAFC saying, "What did Amazon do to piss you off?" Because you used to be a fanboy and it's not so much anymore. And so I don't know that I would agree with that characterization, but I get the point. But there was a piece in Fortune by Jason Del Rey in which he basically argued that Amazon, in fact, may be more dangerous to competitors than ever. The headline was something like, "This is the Amazon everyone should have feared." And basically, what he's saying is that often companies are on either in investment cycles or they're in profit cycles. They're often not in both. And in fact, Amazon specifically rarely has been in both. And right now it is in both, which makes it really dangerous. I
I
mean,
will, I will say that, in the years that I spent at Amazon running businesses inside Amazon, there were definitely those cycles, and they were pretty deliberate. Like I would say our default was being deliberately in an investment cycle,
right.
right? And Jeff would always tell the company, don't let the current performance of the stock price, you know, be seen as kind of feedback into how well you're doing your job,
Right.
right? It's our job to be innovative. It's our job to experiment. It's our job to invest, to build this thing for the long term. Don't worry about the short-term fluctuations. However, you would find yourself sometimes, where the market maybe, maybe an overall market condition, or something that would necessitate Amazon to be a little sharper for the coming quarter or two. And you know, we would deliberately kind of throttle back on certain investments. We would kind of view the kind of the P&L. We maybe would be a little bit more, targeting of not losing as much money in certain businesses, or making more business money in certain businesses, to kind of, appease, not a great term, but to kind of satisfy a short-term market
Because when Bezos would say,
demand.
"Listen, we're customer obsessed. We're
Yeah,
not
absolutely
we're
agree.
not we're not we're not competitor or
Profit obsessed.
Wall Street obsessed."
Mhm.
But that was not pure, obviously.
No, I mean, it was not, well, it was still pretty pure. Almost, what
Right.
was it? Ivory was 99.7% pure, or
Yeah.
something like that. That's gonna date us. But it was pretty pure, though. It just, sometimes you just, if the environment was, brutal enough, where the stock was at risk of getting, hammered enough, and then that just impacts so many things, that we would maybe be a little bit more mindful in the short term of being a little more responsible in our investment loss. But now, over time, that formula has absolutely changed.
Yeah. Does that mean is that is this a place where Bezos would probably, if he'd stayed as CEO, he would have gotten to anyway? Is this just a natural thing, or do you think it has something to do with just Jassie's approach to the business?
So I think it's both. I think the business was definitely trending up and to the right. The thousands of investments that the company was making throughout all of its businesses, was all, gearing the company toward this. Um, I think that, particularly, their investments in things like, fast delivery, right, with more fulfillment centers closer to homes, which actually helps customers get things faster, but also lowers cost structure. Their advertising business, their AWS business, these are big, massive businesses that are profit machines now, generally, inside of Amazon. And I think largely they were headed that way. I think you've had a couple of things happen. You've had kind of doubling down in investment, through the pandemic, when Amazon overinvested in its network. They're reaping the benefit of that now. Um, and then you also had, over the last few years, some cost cutting around Amazon, where the business has been kind of right sized in certain areas, and then you've also seen, and again, this is a little harder to see from the outside than obviously folks that are inside might see, but it appears that they're doing fewer kind of scattered, kind of R&D investment areas. I think there's still plenty of them, but where maybe they had 1,000 projects, maybe it's 600 now or 500 now, right? So I think you're seeing the yield in these power businesses just throwing off massive amounts of cash, while you're also, being more efficient in the general delivery of the business.
Well, and it's clear that that they see advertising as the next AWS when it comes to funding so much of what they want to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that, clearly, lots of investment in advertising, on-site investment, Prime Video investment, kind of extended ecosystem types of investments. So yeah, I think you're gonna in opportunities, I think you're gonna see that business continue to grow like crazy. You often make the point, rightfully so, though, that you always have to balance that with your customer experience. So I think they're going to need to continue to be mindful of that. But I also do think that as you're seeing broader shifts, in the ad landscape and less away from kind of traditional TV commercials, and more into, much more targeted, streaming or on-site or digital advertising, types of, types of placements. Um, I think you are going to see, um, that business, really continue to grow, and a fair opportunity to continue to grow it without overloading the customer. I still fully believe, though, that retail media in general, this is a whole other innovation conversation for another time, is at risk of inundating customers and going over the top. But if you look at kind of the avenues that Amazon has, I think they still have a pretty good amount of runway, to continue to grow that business. They could double or triple that business, which would be huge for their own
Right.
good, but would not be massively, obtrusive to the customer base.
Well, and it's an interesting problem, and imbalance is the right word in the sense that um, so they want to generate more advertising revenue, and as we had a story earlier this week that I think that referenced a Wall Street Journal piece about how advertisers don't want traditional TV anymore in a lot of cases because it's not reaching the audience they want to reach. And so they're all, and streaming is still so fragmented that it's hard to figure out. So they're really all in on retail media networks. So it is like everybody's throwing gasoline on this fire,
Yeah.
but at some point the fire may not be able to be contained, and that's when they're going to have a problem. And I don't know if that's going to be a problem next month, next year, or it's going to take 5 years to get to that point. Um, but as you say, it's eventually everybody will get burned, if I can continue the metaphor.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, the retailers that are able to kind of more thoughtfully and effectively integrate media experiences into valuable customer experiences, ultimately they're going to win. And frankly, those placements will be worth more, individually, because they're going to return better, because customers are going to like them. They're actually going to help customers shop. They're going to result in more sales, right? And so I think that I think the best retailers at delivering that stand to even further separate themselves versus the retailers that are just throwing a whole bunch of media and advertising at customers, at the expense of a good experience.
And it would appear, at least, that Amazon, like a lot of other companies, are really investing an awful lot of money in interactive AI, right? That because I mean they've got the machine. I mean they've got the Alexa that they've already got a delivery vehicle.
Yeah.
It just got to figure out how to upgrade it. I mean, Apple's talking about changing all their iPhones, so they're
Yeah.
now AI phones, right? I mean that's so it'll be interesting to see how they're able to kind of capture, to what extent can they capture that lightning in a bottle.
No doubt about it. They're doing a lot of investments down in the kind of infrastructure and model layers, of AI. You see, recently the crazy developments coming out of OpenAI with its ability to process, audio, to recognize audio, to recognize video, right, and to create seemingly human-like interactions from that. Amazon had a good early head start in that arena. They're investing heavily in keeping up. But I think right now, there's a little bit of them keeping up with what you're seeing, at least from OpenAI. But Amazon's got their own models. They have a big investment in Anthropic. There's so much there under the hood that people don't necessarily see, that I think Amazon will continue to be a massive player in AI, and that's going to be a really big win for them, because it's going to enable them to better deliver their own service, right? It's going to enable, a whole kind of AI business within AWS across industries. And then it's also going to enable them to be a much better partner to the retail and, CPG and food industries in delivering, AI to their customers in those industries. So I think it sets them up, really, really well. I think the other areas too, where, you'll see, you could see the benefit of, this ability to have both a profit cycle and an investment cycle at the same time. I think you're going to see a lot from Amazon and pharmacy in the next handful of years. They've
Just
been
pharmacy
relative.
or also healthcare? Are you talking both?
Well, I'm talking about pharmacy first. So I think, the evolution of traditional pharmacy in getting your script, getting it processed, and getting it to you very quickly, that is going to be, I think, a pretty mind-blowing service from them, right? Where you can do whoever your provider is, you can do an appointment, you know, at 10 a.m. and by 2 or 3 p.m., your script is there, shows up at your door. Maybe even faster. I'm sure they can do it faster than that even. And so I think that that's going to start really changing the game in that area. And then I do think that in healthcare in general and telehealth, that they're not going to give up on investing in that. And I know we've seen, a lot of challenge in the market lately with Walmart, closing down their health centers, and you've heard from both CVS and Walgreens about how tough the business is. There's it's still that whole industry, I think, it's ready for massive innovation. And to date, it's payers and PBMs and whatnot that have historically been the challenge, and they're still a challenge now. We'll see how long that those traditional elements of the business system continue to kind of wield their power. But I think as that lightens up, I think these other companies and the innovation they can be able to deliver to that, I think will be pretty amazing. And I know you've often said too, retailers, you know, retailers can be good retailers. It doesn't mean they're going to be good medical professionals. And I think that as retailers think about themselves as platforms and ability to deliver that service, maybe that, maybe that can work better and be seen by folks as a nice option for them.
So you've just given me an idea, and but now I'll let me tell you what my idea is. You tell me whether, and maybe somebody's already doing this, but and maybe it doesn't make sense. But you say that, and I think about how in certain markets, Amazon, where they do not have fresh stores, but they're delivering fresh because they're partnering with traditional retailers. And they're making those deliveries. So and you and I both talked to retailers who it's working out for them. Could Amazon put together a program where they actually try to marginalize the CVSs and the Walgreens of the world by dealing with independent pharmacies, and they become the delivery system for those independent pharmacies? It's funny, I have, being at my advanced stage, I have some regular prescriptions I take for things, cholesterol, stuff like that. And I get all that stuff through delivery. That's all mailed. I don't deal with anybody, a traditional pharmacy. The only time I deal with
Mhm.
my local pharmacy is if I need something immediately, right? And if Amazon could capture part of that business by enabling independent pharmacies to compete more effectively with the CVSs and the Walgreens of the world, I wonder if that's a way to kind of get into the business without having to, open physical
Right.
stores, which is what's killed them in the grocery business.
Well, their current fresh business working with, you know, terrestrial retailers,
Right.
they do tend to work with, the regionals, the
Right.
sub-regionals. They tend to be the ones that they're having the best kind of results with, because clearly the bigger guys have their own, objectives and don't really want to partner necessarily with Amazon. So that certainly could be a potential for them. Now, the way they're building it out today is they're building out these facilities that will do the central filling and then
Right.
will do the local delivery. So, but there could be a business system where there's a symbiotic relationship between the traditional, you know, local independent pharmacy and Amazon.
They've got all these freaking trucks. I mean, there's 10 Amazon trucks come down our
Yeah,
road. I'm on a little dead end street, and 10 trucks come down our road probably every day.
yeah, it's
The
crazy.
idea of being able to connect with Greaves, our local pharmacy, to say, hey, we can be your delivery system. Now, Greaves has to decide whether it makes sense. Are they giving up more control than they want to
Right.
give up? Are they becoming too associated with Amazon? But it seems to me there's an interesting play to be made there.
Yeah, there could be. I mean, and these independent pharmacies have to decide competitively,
Right.
how they're gonna continue to stand up.
Yeah.
And, clearly for most of them, the personal connection,
Right.
that kind of element of knowing your customers and being ingrained in your community, that's tough for anyone to replicate.
Well,
And if
and
that's
that's
where Amazon can partner with them, that could be pretty interesting.
yeah, and it's interesting, and by the way, they could provide stuff that the local independent pharmacy doesn't have the
100%.
capacity to stock, so
Yeah.
at better prices. I mean, I think there's an interesting play there. Listen,
Yeah.
it's always something that the regional or the independent's going to have to think about, right? Whether it's in the food business or the pharmacy business, because
Absolutely.
you are, to a certain extent, sleeping with the enemy. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and it may be that Greaves, my local pharmacy, may see the CVS across the street as a bigger problem
Yeah.
than they do Amazon, because their business and Amazon's business are not the same. Their
Right.
business and CVS's are a lot closer.
Yeah, and it from a regulatory standpoint, it certainly wouldn't look bad
Right.
for Amazon to be, helping the little guy thrive.
Yeah.
As long as it really does, amount to that.
Yeah. Well, who knows what the long-term plan would be. Well, okay. Well, listen, this has been great. I think this is fascinating to me. And the thing is about Amazon being in being both a profit cycle and an investment cycle, you and I both know there's stuff they're investing in that we have no idea what those
Oh
things are.
yeah, yeah,
And that, like companies, like whether it's, Microsoft, Apple, Google, whoever, there's stuff going there. Most of the iceberg is below the surface. And
absolutely. And as long as retailers realize that and can compete against it in the Amazon case, and then can partner with the combination of the Apples, the Googles, the Microsofts,
yeah.
and the kind of the startup ecosystem, plenty of opportunity for them to compete.
But, and we've said this 1,000 times, if we've said it once, right? The retailer has to continue to innovate on their own by looking at themselves and saying, okay, what can we do that Amazon can't? Because there's still a lot of stuff that Amazon can or
Whoa,
will not.
absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
So,
no doubt.
and maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Of course.
Anyway, good to see you, Tom.
Likewise, Kevin, and
Take
let's
care.
go Mets.
Absolutely. Oh, it's a roller coaster, man.
I know.
I'll talk to you later. See ya.
So long, everyone.
Bye.